my oat crumb topping. Hi guys, Kelsey Nixon here, and I'm so excited to be sharing with you one of my favorite recipes made entirely from pantry staples. And bonus, once it's made, it becomes a freezer staple. It's my oat crumb topping, which is baked over frozen fruit. Now, you could absolutely do fresh fruit, but I'm doing frozen because I like to always have it on hand. So this truly is a dessert straight from your pantry. Let's get into it. So I've got about 1.5 cups of oats. To that, I'm going to add 1 cup of brown sugar that I packed in there. I've got just a little bit of flour to add some substance. I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and that's gonna give me some nice texture. And then I'm gonna add cinnamon and nutmeg. And let's go 1/2 teaspoon on the cinnamon, and maybe 1/4 teaspoon on the nutmeg. And if you wanted to, you could also add a little ginger in here. That might be really nice as well. Let's add about 1/2 teaspoon of salt as well, because that saltiness will be really nice in there. All right, I'm gonna use the best tools in the kitchen, a set of clean hands to really get in here and break up this brown sugar. I wanna make sure everything is evenly distributed. And you'll notice right behind my bowl here, I've got butter. So one thing I like to do to make it a little easier is I like to take a knife and go in and almost create smaller pieces to begin with before I use my pastry cutter. Now, if you don't have a pastry cutter, no problem. You could also use 2 sets of forks, or once again, a set of clean hands. You just wanna make sure this butter stays pretty cold, because as the heat hits that cold butter, that's what's going to create that really delicious crumb topping. Nothing needs to be too uniform in size. This is really just kind of a shortcut to make it easier to incorporate all of those butter pieces in my topping. All right, so once I've done that, butter's going in. Now this will make about 4.5 cups, and the reason I'm making such a big batch is that I really won't need it all. I'm gonna keep the extra on hand in my freezer in a reusable storage bin. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a pastry cutter. It's got these nice grooves right here that really help to incorporate the butter in all of the oats, flour, spices, brown sugar. And you'll already see those small bits of butter that have started to form. What you're looking for is something like this, the shape and size of a pea almost. You don't want there to be a big separation between your flour and oats and the butter. You really want it to feel pretty well incorporated. See how that's like a pea-sized shaped bit of butter? That's what you're looking for. The next thing I want to do is grab my frozen fruit from the freezer. You could totally use fresh fruit if you had that on hand, but frozen fruit works in a pinch, and especially for a baked dessert like this, it does really, really well. So you'll see how this coats the bottom of my pan nicely. I've already preheated my oven to 375 degrees, and now I'm just gonna take this topping and go right over the top. And this is gonna give me that beautiful buttery crust that's crispy and delicious. I wanna make sure it's nice and evenly coated, but you still do wanna see some of the berries, so it doesn't need to be fully coated. That's it, that's all we have to do. This is gonna go in the oven at 375 for about 40 minutes or so. I'll know it's done when that fruit is bubbling from underneath and I've got golden crisp topping. I always like to let it rest for about 10 minutes, cool down ever so slightly, and that fruit will thicken up. And you gotta serve with ice cream, right? So I'm gonna take my warm fruit with that crispy topping and go right on top of my vanilla ice cream, and there you have it. All made with pantry staples, and I'm gonna take my extra oat crumb topping, store it in a reusable bag. This is some freezer tape. I just label it, stick it in the freezer, and this way, I've got this paired with some frozen or fresh fruit and have an instant dessert straight from my pantry.